Library computer. Data being received. Working.
Fascinating.
You're in the hands of an adolescent.
Welcome to What Tim Read This Month, November 2025, Part 2. This brief video is going to cover the things I've read over the last week or so. And only got 4 things read over the course of a week, which actually is not a bad rate. My reading goal this year was 160 books. If I did 4 books a week, that would be over 200. So I actually did pretty good this week, didn't I? So anyway, let's just dive in and get started. First, we have Snoopy versus the Red Baron by Charles M. Schulz. This came out in 2015 when the Peanuts theatrical movie came out, which I actually have been told is really good and I still haven't seen. I got to get around to watching that one day. Angela would enjoy it too. We're both big Peanuts fans. But I understand there was a pretty elaborate fantasy sequence of Snoopy battling the Red Baron in that movie. So as a part of, so they went ahead and put out this. There's every instance of Snoopy being a World War I fighting ace throughout the 50-year run of Peanuts. And it's just wonderful to read. It really is. And I compiled statistics because, of course I did. If I didn't miscount, then Snoopy is shot down by the Red Baron at least 27 times. There are 4 other times where we join him when he's already behind enemy lines without showing us how he got there. Now, since the overwhelming number of times Snoopy is shot down is at the hands of the Red Baron, I think we can safely credit the Baron with those victories as well. So that means Snoopy was shot down by the Red Baron 31 times over the course of World War I. He was also, by the way, shot down once by anti-aircraft fire and once by friendly fire. He was behind enemy lines and he stole a Fokker, a German plane, to escape from behind enemy lines. That was represented by him sitting on his doghouse facing the other way, and he got shot down by his own side. So anyway, the Red Baron has 31 victories out of the 80 he had before he was killed in April of 1918. That means that 39% of his victories were against Snoopy. Without Snoopy, he would have had only 49 victories, and rather than being Germany's most successful fighter ace, he would have been Germany's 3rd most successful. He would have been behind Ernst Udat, who had 62 victories, and Erich Lowenhart, I guess you would say it, with 54 victories. So he would have dropped from 1st place to 3rd place if it hadn't been for Snoopy. It's important to know these things. Next, I finished The Time Tunnel by Murrey Leinster. Now, this was the first of 2 books he wrote that were media tie-in novels for the 1-season science fiction show from the 60s produced by Irwin Allen, which is really a fun show. I really like this show, despite some flaws. Now, Leinster had actually already written a novel called The Time Tunnel in 1964, which predated the TV show, and that was about a tunnel through time that led from modern days back to the Napoleonic era. Now, I haven't confirmed this yet. I've only read it in one place, but I read that that novel was at least part of the inspiration for Irwin Allen creating the Time Tunnel TV show, and that's why Murrey Leinster was hired to write the media tie-in novels. Whether or not it's true, he did jump in with both feet to write these tie-in novels. I will read the next one sometime within the next few months, but this first one is really good. Leinster uses the same basic plot as the pilot episode. A senator comes to the time tunnel facility with the intention of shutting it down because of how much it costs. Tony Newman, one of the primary scientists on the project, uses the time tunnel to prove it works. He sends himself back in time. Another scientist, Doug Phillips, is soon sent back to help him. So in the TV pilot, both men ended up on the Titanic the day before the ship sank. In this version, in the novel, they end up in Johnstone in 1889, just a few hours before the flood that killed thousands of people. So the senator is afraid of changing history and causing time paradoxes. The scientists are ordered to just do nothing to change anything until they can figure out how to bring him back. But Tony has chronic hero syndrome, and there's no stopping him from trying to save whomever he can. It turns out that history can't be changed, but also that time travelers are actually instruments of history. The person Tony and Doug ended up saving was supposed to be saved. The two men are shifted in time again, but the mechanics of time travel are still uncertain. They end up in the Wild West, taking part in the 1874 battle at Adobe Walls. This was against a small community of buffalo hunters against a very large force of Comanches. It's a real-life battle. After that, they take a brief trip to the future where they help foil an alien invasion. There's a few other differences from the series. The crew of the time tunnel does include General Kirk and Anna McGregor, but poor Dr. Swan, one of the major scientist characters from the series, doesn't appear at all. Also, Tony and Doug have to wear a harness underneath their clothes so the time tunnel can lock onto them, even if at first the tunnel doesn't know how to move them through space and time to put them in a specific spot. So it is different from the series. It's an alternate universe version of the TV series, but it's a ton of fun in its own right. Now, I've always enjoyed Leinster's books, and I've always considered him a workmanlike author. His books are entertaining and well written, but there's nothing exceptional about his prose. But this time, his description of the huge wall of water barreling down on Johnstone is downright terrifying, while his description of the fight at Adobe Walls is brutal and vivid. So, good work, Murray. You really went to town with this one, and you turned out a really, really fun novel. So, what's next? Next we have Legends of the Mouse Guard. Legends of the Guard Volume 2. I read Volume 1 a month or two ago. So you'll find that on a past video. And I enjoyed Volume 1 enormously, and this one is every bit as delightful and fun as Volume 1. The premise is the same. There's mice in a tavern telling tales from the past. These tales may or may not be true. It really doesn't matter because they're legends. So each tale has a different artist, and when the artist isn't also the writer, a different writer. Part of the appeal is the way the visual style changes from story to story, with each style fitting the tone of that particular story. All the tales here are fun. I do have some favorites, though. Love of the Sea by Christian Slade, a seagoing mouse meets a mermaid, or a mermouse, and a story about how love endures. The Thief, the Stargazer, the Hunter, and the Tailor by Corey Godby. Its four brothers use their respective skills together to complete a quest. The Veteran by Bill Willingham and Brad Thomty is about an elderly and out-of-shape mouse that outsmarts a hungry cat. And Back and Forth by Jackson Z, S-Z-E, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing right, and Nate Pride is about a mission between a map maker and a guard mouse who learn to respect each other's skills as they work together. I think I said this when I read Volume 1, which is the choice of the best stories is very subjective. Every story is more fun than a barrel of guard mice. Now, I ended up this week, just a little bit before I made this video, with finishing Battery from Hellfire. Angela and I went to a silent reading party last night, and I was able to read about 2/3 of this, and I finished it up today while she was off at a Daughters of American Revolution meeting. So I was able to read through it very quickly, and I enjoyed it enormously. It's about a British anti-aircraft unit in World War II that arrives in North Africa just in time to see the rest of the British Army in full retreat from Rommel. Now, when they're ordered to move to an airfield and take up position there, I assumed I was in for a story about a battle defending that airfield. But I was fooled. When the unit is ambushed and nearly wiped out on the way to the airfield, I realize I'm in for a desert survival story. Has about a half a dozen survivors are in a truck towing one of the remaining anti-aircraft guns, trying to get to safety. And I knew from Landsborough's Glasshouse Gang series that he can bring the heat and danger of the desert vividly to life, and that he writes fantastic action scenes. And that indeed is what we get here, as the British fight both the rugged terrain and the occasional German unit as they try to return to their own lines. At one point, they wake up in the morning to find themselves camped in the middle of a German unit, which is using so many captured British vehicles that they don't at first realize that there's actual British soldiers in their midst. There's a tension among the survivors as well. The ranking officer insists they keep towing the gun, even though this slows them down considerably. This part of the story is done very well. Whether he's right to keep towing the gun is an open question through most of the book. And the novel does start a little slowly, as Landsborough takes time to introduce the various characters that we need to know. But once it takes off, it gallops through intense action sequences to one of the best ending paragraphs I've encountered in a long time. So that's what I finished reading since my last reading report. What I am currently reading now is Bonanza Treachery Trail by Harry Whittington. This is one of several Bonanza books published by Whitman in the 1960s. I've read the first one, Killer Lion by Steve Frazee, which was excellent. These were marketed to kids, but they hired great authors who never wrote down to the kids. They wrote really good stories. And so Whittington is a great writer of Westerns, so I'm really hoping to enjoy this one as well. For short stories, since as I so pompously say, I always like to read one or two short stories between novels to cleanse my literary palate. I'm reading Teenage Baseball Stories, edited by Frank Owen, and there is a video about this on my BookTube playlist, so look for that for more information. And on my Serial app that sends me one chapter a day, I am about halfway through The Brady Bunch, Count Up to Blast Down by William Johnson. And why am I reading a Brady Bunch novel? There will, in the future, be a video explaining my reasons for that. And so that's it for now. As usual, thank you for listening. Like and subscribe if you want. But I do appreciate that my numbers will probably always be low, but that I do have people who do like these videos and do comment on them, and I appreciate that very much. And that's really all I want out of life. Although keep in mind that my impeccable taste in books is probably the only hope Western civilization has to survive. So if you do want to help spread word of this around, for the sake of civilization itself, perhaps you should. So I will see everybody next time. Thank you again for listening.